voorzichtig. Thank you. I'm Tom. I'm an indie app developer. And I'm talking about SharePlay, what it is, how it works, and how perhaps you can use it in your app. So don't answer now, but do you think you can use it in your app? And I'll ask the question again after the talk, and then maybe, hopefully the answer changed, if you now think, no, I can't use this. So yeah, that's what I want to talk about, SharePlay. And I'll start off by talking about, so I work, I have a company called Non-Strict together with my colleague Matthijs Kadijk, and we build apps, and one of the apps we are building currently is the Bezel app, which works as follows. I have an iPhone here, and I have a Mac, and I have a cable, so I plug it in, and now there it is. The app shows, the device shows up on my Mac. So this is for showing the contents of your phone on your Mac easily and quickly, which is very useful because I need to show two devices for this demo. So there's my iPad. Okay, so I want to start off by showing the basic demo of SharePlay, which is the one that Apple also showed when they introduced it, and that is you're in a FaceTime call together and you want to watch a movie together. That's the basic version. So I'll do that. I have my two test devices here. I've been testing it a lot, and I'll start a FaceTime audio call. So now my iPad is calling my iPhone. I'll answer it, and now I'm in a voice chat, and I'll turn down the volume because otherwise it starts echoing. So now I have two devices in a voice chat, and now one of the people starts watching a video together that they want to watch with the other. So as you can already see, the pop-up here, it says the video will start playing together. So now I start watching this video here, and as you can see, it automatically starts playing on the iPhone as well. So I'll make it bigger here, open the app as well. So now this is two different apps. They are not. There are two apps running on both devices separately, and they're both streaming the same video, but they're not screen sharing or something like that. They're just connected via SharePlay. And what that means is that I can pause the video from my iPad, and now it is paused. It shows it in a little pop-up showing that the video paused. I can seek in the video, and it quickly seeks to the other device as well. I can play. Now they're both playing. I hear an echo again. I always need to mute when audio chatting between two devices. So they're playing in sync, and it's not just that the iPad can control it, the iPhone can control it as well. So on the iPhone I can also pause. I can, from the iPhone, say I want to watch a different video, I'm currently doing everything on my iPhone, but you can see that the iPad is in sync as well. Whatever I do on the iPhone is done on the iPad as well. So that is the basic demo of SharePlay, watching a movie together. Pause. Yeah. Okay, but SharePlay is so much more than that, and that's what I want to talk about. So these are, I want to talk through these three example applications. The one that we already saw is group watching, synchronized video, where you're both watching a video together. The other is a collaboration tool if you're working on the same thing together. So making something, in this case it's a drawing application where you're both drawing on the same canvas. And the third one is an e-commerce app, which is you have a shopping list and you want to both control that same shopping list. These two are sample applications from Apple. The third one is an app that I made, so if I give the demo and it doesn't stay in sync correctly, then it's probably not SharePlay, but my own buggy code that I quickly threw together. But it is still a good demo, because then if it's not in sync, that shows how fidgety SharePlay can be if you don't do it correctly. So I want to talk through these four types that exists. So the marketing name for the feature is SharePlay, but the framework is called Group Activities. And there are four types: Group Activity, Group Session, GroupSessionManager, and GroupSessionJournal. Let's start with Group Activity. Group Activity is a type that you create yourself that needs to be codable, that gets sent to the other person. So here you can see I've defined a struct shopping activity, which is a group activity, and it has a shopping list and a metadata field, which is a required field. And as you can see, this has a title, a subtitle, an image, and a type, and those all show up in the UI for the other person. So this is needs to be codable, so it gets serialized, it gets sent over to the other person, so that they know what they are getting into when they click join or accept. I didn't mention this before, but it's not just one person. You can have a group of multiple people, many participants, so they can all see what they are currently doing as a group, which is that shared activity. And you can also see in this UI you can add more people here. So this is the start. This is how you define an activity. You don't need to use FaceTime to start. You can also start the activity from within your own app. So you can add a button to your app, and the basic version is just have a share sheet. So if you already have a share sheet somewhere, you can add a registered group activity, and then it shows up as a button, SharePlay. So that's the basic version. You can also trigger the view controller directly from a button. So now it pops up that view controller, and then here I can start a SharePlay session with all the people I invite. And as you can see here, there are two buttons, FaceTime and Messages. So you can either send the activity via FaceTime or via Messages. So then it shows up as a message. And new in iOS 17, you can also use AirDrop. And that, I think, is the most useful feature, because I don't have most of you in my address book, so I can't call you or send you a message, but I could FaceTime you right now, or AirDrop something to you, and then we would all be in the same shared session, and then you could continue from there. So that's really that really adds an in-person version as well, because previously it was all remote, and now it's in person, because you can start from an AirDrop session, and then you're in the session, and then when you split up, the connection remains. Yeah.
Do I have to have the same app?
Yeah, a good question. Do you need the same app? No, you can start off with one of the people not having the app yet, or any of one person needs the app. But if you don't have the app installed, it guides you through the App Store, downloading the app, installing the app, and the activity remains available the whole time, so that once you have the app installed, and for example, if you have a video app, you need to sign in, create an account, all that stuff, afterwards, you can still pick up the activity. One of the suggestions Apple made is to, if you know the person is waiting for an activity, skip as much of the sign-up stuff as possible, because especially if you have more than one people in a group, then all the other people are waiting for that one person, or they can just start watching the movie and the other person misses the first part of the movie.
So you said
So you said Apple recommends to skip some of the sign-up activities. So an app actually, when you launch it from this invite, it gets some kind of notification that it's launched from an invite for SharePlay.
Yes. So it can. Yes, I'll get to that how you can pick it up from code. But yeah, and then one thing you could do is I think one of the recommended things is that just even if it's a paid movie, if one of the people pays, then it's enough, and the other people can watch it for free. But that's not something that you need to do. You can require, because they are on different devices, all streaming the video separately. So it would also make sense that everyone needs to pay for that separate stream. But that's just depending on your implementation. Okay. So that's the first part, group activity. It's a codable type to send to other participants. The second part, the group session, this is really the part where the session is the thing where all the people come together, where you have a session as a state that has started and it has a list of participants, which grows and shrinks depending on how many participants exist. And one interesting aspect here is that the session is not something that you create. You need to wait to get a session from the system. So here in SwiftUI, I have a task, and that is the sessions method from the shopping activity. That's the activity we created on the previous slide. This returns a asynchronous sequence, which gives a session when it becomes available.
Sorry for interrupting. I see that here one activity has several sessions. Other sessions, simultaneous sessions, or it's.
Don't think there. I think there's only one session. Well, you can have different activities. So I think you can a session. I'm not sure. I think a session can only have one activity at a time, but you can switch between activities. So then one session would end here because this session is only associated with this shopping activity. And if you're no longer in the shopping activity, then it would stop and it would wait until the next shopping activity.
I mean that one activity has several sessions. Yeah.
Well, one session could end and then a new session could start.
Okay, so it's not like, for example, I collaborate in one, I don't know, in one Miro board and in another one at the same time.
That's interesting. So the activity that I showed before, that's specific to one piece of content. So you have one movie, and then the title is the title of the movie. It's not the title of your app. So then if you're switching between movies, you're switching between activities.
Yeah, but when it's
within the same session,
cooperative, something cooperative like cooperative drawing, and you can draw with, for example, I'm a teacher and I have two classes and I just need to watch both of them and maybe take some notes.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the answer. If you can be in two sessions at the same time,
okay.
I don't know. That's
okay,
a
anyway,
very good question. Yeah. Because all my testing, I've been between these two devices and maybe a third, and never have I tried more. Okay, so for the first app that I showed, the video app, it's really simple. Once you get handed a session, that session you can associate with an AV player. An AV player has a playback coordinator, and you can coordinate with that session, and then it just works. You just wait for a session from the system, connect that to your player, and then your player is in sync. And that's all you need to do because it's built into the system. So that works for video, for audio. If you build a music app or a podcast app or something, you could use this. even if you don't use AV Player for playback, there's a delegate you can implement, and then you also get play, pause, seek events connected to you. But the more interesting cases are the other two examples, for which we need the session messenger or the session journal. So a group session, you don't create those yourselves. Sessions are peer-to-peer and they're ownerless. So if I start a session, invite 2 of you, and then I leave, you're still in the session. It remains. And the sessions also are entitled to FaceTime or to messages or to AirDrop. That's just a mechanism to get the session started, and then when you're in the session, you remain in the session until you leave. So that you can stop your FaceTime call. And the session crosses activities, so you can change activities when you're in a session, and then all the other people see the new activity. One example of that I already showed when switching to different movies, because those were different activities. We can also switch apps, and that would also be a different activity. So that's the group session. Then the GroupSessionMessenger. And a messenger is for sending messages between participants. So you can create a messenger from a group session, and then you define your own message types. So that also needs to be codable types. And then you can listen for messages from other participants, which is again an async sequence. So on the messenger you can request messages of that specific type, and then you get those asynchronously pushed to you whenever one of the participants sends you a message. And you can also send messages yourself. And as you can see, you can also, as of iOS 16 or 17, I don't recall, define if you want a reliable or unreliable. And that's basically the choice between TCP or UDP. And UDP or unreliable is something if you don't care if messages get dropped or delivered in the wrong order, but they're very fast, they have a low latency. So that really depends on your use case, but UDP can be useful. And if you want to know for sure that the messages arrive in the correct order, then you would use the reliable version. And you can also have messages of different types. So if you define 2 different types, you can subscribe to them both by using two asynchronous sequences. And in this case, I defined those in 2 different tasks and inserted the task into a set, so that when I want to stop, you can cancel all the tasks, and then it stops listening to all those different messages at the same time. So those are messages. Messages are peer-to-peer, either reliable or unreliable, and they have a maximum size of 265 kilobytes, 56. Sorry?
Why the constraint on the size? Is it because of the Bluetooth?
No, because it's also over the network. It's also over. You don't need to be physically near each other.
So does the host iPhone starts an access point where the other one connects like a
No, it's over the internet.
Internet.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you don't need to be near each other to have a shared session.
Okay.
The only thing for AirDrop, you need to be near each other, but that just starts the session. That exchanges the session, and then everything is over the internet. The size difference used to be even smaller. In the first version, it was a few kilobytes, less than this one. This is really meant to send small messages and not to transfer large files. For that, there's a separate thing, the journal, which is the next part.
Thanks.
But yeah, this is for sending small messages to communicate. So really play, pause events, those kind of things to communicate between different devices.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that was the Group Session Manager. sending objects to other devices in a session. Then finally, the GroupSessionJournal. This is new in iOS 17. This you can use to exchange larger files. And the example Apple uses in the Canvas app, where you can draw together. Drawing are just small lines, but if you want to add an image, that will be a larger file, and that you would send via, that wouldn't fit in those 265 kilobytes. Then you can use the journal, and the journal is also persistent. So if someone joins later, they get the attachments, the files that were previously sent. So how that works is you can, again, in an asynchronous sequence, look at all the attachments that are added to the journal for this session. You get to push those, and then you can handle that by loading all the data from there. And you can also send your own data. And this is, the API is quite similar to messages. Sort of looks the same. The difference is that messages are always peer-to-peer. These attachments are stored in iCloud for the duration of the session, so that if I have a big file and I only need to upload it once, and everyone else can download it, and if someone else joins the session, they can also download it, and don't need to one person don't need to upload the same data to everyone all the time. So that's this is a really shared journal for where everyone has access to the same attachments.
Said it remains in iCloud for the duration of the session.
Yes.
But for your example, shopping list, what is the length of the session?
As long as someone is in the session, I'll give you a demo in a bit to show how to exit the session. But you can be, you can remain in a session even if you are outside of the application.
And for example, if everyone quits the session, is session stored afterwards?
No.
Okay.
So if everyone leaves the session, then if you leave the session, you won't get any new messages.
Yeah.
But you would get, as if you rejoin the session, get all the could still download all the attachments. But as if everyone leaves the session, then all the attachments are deleted as well.
Okay, and for the messages, the same, yeah?
Yes, but messages you can only get if you are in the session itself.
Yeah. Okay, okay, thank
you. A question about synchronization. So, like, who is the master of synchronization? So, if I have slow internet and I send message, whatever, and someone with fast internet slowing the message, who wins? So if I start my video, you start your video, who wins?
So there is no, it's peer-to-peer and there's no owner. So it's all sending messages to each other. And one of the ways that I think the video syncing works, but that's built in, so you wouldn't need to build that one yourself. But they someone says, I want to watch this video, and then it waits for everyone to respond with the video is now buffered on my device. So then you would need to wait for the slowest person to have it buffered, and then then it actually starts playing, so that they all play in sync. But if you seek very fast, then you would need to wait a long time again for the last person to say, I have now seeked to that point as well, and can start playing again.
Okay, thanks.
So that's the journal. Transfer attachments between devices. It's a consistent object that you can always look at, even if you join late. And this one has a maximum size of 100 megabytes. So that will be enough to transfer photos, but not big video files. So if you want to transfer video files, all the people you should really transfer the URL, and all the people should download it themselves. Okay, so that's the last one. And now I want to show the two apps again, or the three apps now. Yeah, so these devices are still in the session. I could leave the app. Well, this app has a picture-in-picture, so you can really see it's still active. If I press play, then both devices continue playing. But now I could open a different app. Let's open Draw Together. And I've opened it on my iPhone. Both are still watching the video, but now I want to stop watching this video and I want to draw something together. And we are in the same session, so I can tap the button in this app, replace this video that we're watching with this new activity. Yes, I want to do that. Replace existing. So now the video stopped because this is a picture-in-picture. It still shows up, but it's not. Now they're really disconnected from each other, and now we're both in the same Draw Together session, except that on the iPad I haven't opened the app yet, but I am already in the session. I can close the window because that's no longer relevant. I can open the app on the iPad, and now I did something wrong. Now it should have shown up, but this is the demo, the live demo, and I suspect something wrong in the code itself. It should have connected to the session. Now we are in the same session, and I can draw on one device, and it shows up on the other. So, and I can leave the app, draw something else, go back in the app, and now I have the messages again. In theory, I haven't tried this, but let's see what happens. Yeah. So in this case, the app came up and it, whoops, what is this? No, my Mac went to sleep. In this case, the app launched and it joined the session from the asynchronous loop. And then the iPhone saw a new participant and sent whatever it had to that new participant. But I can now switch to back to the video again, start watching that, replace it. And now the video started playing on my iPhone as well. Let's switch instead to the shopping list app. Let's start that one, replace the activity. And now we're in the shopping list together. Let's see if this works. Yep. So you can switch between apps, switch between activities, and I don't even remember if I'm in the voice call. I think I am. In theory, I should be able to leave the call. Let's see what happens. 26 minutes I'm in the video call. Let's end that. No, that stopped the session as well. Shouldn't have, but let's start the session again. This time as a text message. And join the session. And now we're back in the session. Nope. But this is, I think, just buggy code where it doesn't correctly associate with the session with the activity and stuff. Yeah, so in theory, if everyone correctly implements all the asynchronous code, then it should all always be in sync with each other. So finally, I wanted to show you the code that you need to write to do this. So the shopping list app, it has an item type, which is a title and an ID. And this was the initial version of the view model. There is a list of items, an array of items, and you can append, move, remove, or reset the array. And in the UI has a view model. It loops over all the items, shows the item, and the user can move an item, delete an item, or reset the items. And then it, of course, listens to the active sessions that is currently active and connects to that. So the change I made to go from the simple view model to the one that actually uses SharePlay is this. So now, when you add an item, it doesn't just add the item to the local thing, but it also sends a message, appends message. So I should have shown the messages first. This is Xcode. I click here and it doesn't open. So these are the messages, which are really simple messages. Append message, move message, or remove message. So in the view model, whenever I append an item, I append it to my local array, and I also send an append message. And whenever I move an item, I move it locally and also send the equivalent message. And then somewhere over here, I loop over all the different types of messages and apply those. Whenever I get that message from someone else, apply that change locally. So if I from somebody else get an append message, I append that same item locally as well. Yeah, so that's really it, I think. Let's see. Yeah, so those are the 4 different types for having an activity which is one thing that your app can do, and the session that connects all the different users, and then sending messages between all the different participants and or sending data between the different participants. Finally, I want to show something about Vision OS. I haven't used it yet, and I also haven't done SharePlay in Vision, of course, but I did like the video that they showed. So what I like about this here, it becomes a lot more prominent, SharePlay, because whenever you're in a call with somebody, every window has this little thing on top, so that it's really obvious that you can start sharing that with somebody. You click it, and so every window has this, because every window you could share by starting just screen sharing. You're sharing the window and then the other person just looks at the video. But if the app implements SharePlay, then you could also tap that, and then the app would launch on the other person's device, and then you're in a SharePlay session together. So that annotation really helps. So in this case, this is a free-form board that is shared, which you can see here. And this is the Photos app, which is not shared. So here it's really obvious that these are my private photos, and I can drag a photo over onto the freeform board, and then everybody that's in the shared section can see it. So these bubbles on top make it really obvious. And the only thing I think that's new for Vision OS in SharePlay is that you have spatial templates where you can define how you're positioned in space. So if you are watching a movie together, then everybody is standing next to each other looking at the same thing. Here the movie really has focus and everybody is looking at the movie. But this is for 2D content. If you have something in 3D, then everybody will be standing around each other. So you can see all the other people, but the thing you're discussing is really prominent in the center. And then finally, if you're collaborating, so you have a stand-up or something, then here's your project board, but you're all looking at each other. The other people are primary here, and the board is secondary, but the board is the thing that's being shared. So this is the new thing in SharePlay. If you're doing it in Vision OS, you can define how things relate to each other in space. but all the other stuff remains the same, how you actually exchange messages and stuff. Yeah, so that big green pill really makes it more obvious, I think, more prominent even than it was before, that you can actually start share playing. And this would also work with if somebody is not in a vision, they would also join the share play session and see the same board. And so in this case, this is a 3D representation. So if both people have a vision, then they could look at each other and also look at the board. I think one of the reasons why this is more prominent here is that because you're really isolated in a headset. If here I want to show you something, if I could just show you like this, but in a headset I will be isolated. So you really need something like this to share it, even if someone is standing next to you. So SharePlay is more prominent. That is SharePlay in Vision, yeah.
Here you can see it, there's a green pop-up there that says share on iOS or iPhone or iPad, do I have to create this button for the user?
No. So in this case, I am sharing, but you can see that from the green thing here at the top.
Yeah.
So this is the SharePlay icon. I can click that, and then I see that I am sharing, and I can see what I am sharing. I can switch the app.
I'm asking about the initial thing. So if you close this,
Yeah.
yeah, shut it down, like close the session itself.
Oh, the session itself, yeah.
How should I add a button to the user?
Yeah, so if I now want to start sharing, right, so in the here I want to start, so the basic version is you press the share sheet and there it also shows up. Now if you press the SharePlay button, then it pops up the controller. You can also skip the share sheet entirely and directly open that controller yourself.
Oh, okay.
And
so it's best suited to the places where you can see the share button already on your app. This place can also be.
yes, and you can also pick up that the session exists. So if you are already in a share session and you open your app, then you can also more prominently show the button take over the session. In the shopping app example, so the video is more obvious that people might want to watch a video together, but shopping, not really. But the situation I imagine is you're in the shop, you want to pick up groceries, and you think, hey, I don't understand this. I'm calling back home. Why did you add that to the list? And now you're both confused. I didn't add it, and you both look at the list, open the app, and then the app would say, hey, do you want to share? And now is a perfect time to start sharing.
True.
So that would, I think, be a good flow to do that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, that is SharePlay. You can connect via FaceTime messages or AirDrop. I would love it if there was a different mechanism to connect. I would want to connect via a link so that I can share a hyperlink some way. I think we should all file feedbacks and hope that they add it. But they keep adding features. So the first version only was FaceTime. The second version was messages. Now they've added AirDrop. So maybe they will invent hyperlinks in the future. This is a quote from Apple. You bring the activity, we bring the group. So that's really the scenario. Apple manages the group for you, and then you can just add an activity and then start participating in that activity. Yeah, and as I said, you can switch to different activities, so you don't need to start new groups all the time. Once you've set up something and it's working, then you can just remain in that group. In theory, you could be in the same group for hours if you are do something else, come back, and then rejoin the shared activity again. And sessions are peer-to-peer and ownerless, so it's not like somebody leaves and suddenly everything breaks down. So that's my question again. Is this something you could use for your own app? I'm really curious. Thank you.
So I'm an Android user.
Then the answer is no.
How can I join?
No, you can't. No, this is really iOS or Mac OS, Vision OS, Apple OS.
Will it be feasible for an app to implement this then? If only available on.
So I think it's really an add-on. So like the shopping list example, I think you would sync to some other backend as well. If you have an e-commerce app, then you log into your account and save things to your basket, and then you log into the website and it shows up again. This is really an add-on to make it nicer for iOS users. And like watching video together, then you could say, yeah, well, that doesn't work.
So it's not. It will never be possible for Android users to have an SDK or something.
Like iMessages.
I think once iMessages becomes available on Android, then SharePlay will also be.
Okay.
FaceTime actually is, as far as I know, available for the web. No?
Yeah, on the website. Yeah,
Yes.
you can watch FaceTime together.
So at Flitsmeister, I can think about this use case there. You can share your own trip with someone else, and you can drive next to each other or going with a group ride. And then it's very easy to share the GPS locations in between, right? So you don't need a backend, you don't need all these kind of things. So it's very easy to do it. But then again, I had the same question as US, or I actually know the answer all, but the same situation for Flitsmeister is that we also Android users will, they also have Android users. So otherwise we develop it twice, or we end up with a backend at all. And I think the answer is, if you want a quick, a very seamless approach, then you do it with iOS user, for example, and otherwise you will build an own backend for it as well, right?
Yeah, and you could all send these same codable messages to a backend as well and sync those yourself. And of course, one thing to quickly get, you could, I mean, depends on the use case, but you could roll out an iOS first, just build on this, and then later, if it turns out to be successful, build your own backend and drop this or use those in parallel.
Yeah, it will be a cool project also to do. Yeah. Thank you.
In theory, that could work.
No more questions?
No more questions? Okay, thank you.